I'm Alex Morash, and let's queer up South Florida. Decades before DeSantis, Charley Johns led Florida's first war on queer lives. Long before Ron DeSantis, Charley Johns terrorized queer Floridians, and now award-winning journalist and historian Robert W. Fieseler is uncovering how Johns rose and ultimately fell. Fieseler, known for Tinderbox, returns with a powerful new book, American Scare: Florida's Hidden Cold War on Black and Queer Lives. Using newly uncovered documents, he exposes how the Johns Committee weaponized anti-communism to prosecute black activists, queer teachers, and anyone who threatened Florida's white conservative regime. Fieseler tells LGBTQ Nation, quote, "Especially today, our news cycle continuously chases its tail and fails to account for the historical background needed to understand any given headline," end quote. He explains that moments like the upstairs lounge fire and the Pulse tragedy reveal America's true feelings about marginalized people and why we must understand, quote, deep undercurrents, end quote, behind modern backlash. Fieseler traces today's MAGA playbook, scapegoating, fearmongering, authoritarianism, back to Johns' own tactics. From gerrymandering to smearing queer educators, the committee ruled through intimidation until public outrage, missteps, and unified resistance finally toppled it. The lesson: strongmen fall when marginalized groups stand together. Fieseler's American Scare was just named a Kirkus Best Book of 2025, cementing him as a leading voice chronicling America's unfinished civil rights battles. As Florida once again targets LGBTQ books, rainbow symbols, and queer youth, Fieseler reminds us that history doesn't repeat, it rhymes loudly. You know, I think this was a wonderful book to be exploring, and also there's a long history of talking about communism and relating it to marginalized groups and queer groups, and some of that is to go after queer voices and marginalized voices. I also, as like the pinko commie that I am, point out that like a lot of the civil rights activists and leaders, many of them were part of the Communist Party, and like the Communist Party was the first group in America's political scene back in 1919 to actually go against racism and segregation. I remember the story of like there was a time that a New York City communist actually didn't want to go into the same bathhouse as a black communist, so he got expelled from the Communist Party at that time, which was radical back then, you know. So, you know, it's an important thing to look at both parts of that story.
Well, I mean, I just looked up some statistics about this so-called Johns Committee, and it is completely horrific. He committed academic censorship because, of course, he apparently tried to print a pamphlet that depicts all homosexuals as criminals. Once again, and caused firing of dozens of deans and faculty members from the University of Florida system just because he doesn't like them. And of course, attack everyone who don't agree with him as homosexual. They also try to link communism with NAACP, but they failed in that regard. The committee formally shut down in 1963, but not before multiple students were subject to things like psychiatric conditioning, because they were suspected to be gay. So basically McCarthyism in Florida, and basically evil in a nutshell, which DeSantis is repeating.
Yes, and his book also covered, while it was in Florida, the upstairs lounge fire, which was in New Orleans, and that happened in June of '73, and 32 people died, 31 men and 1 woman. And after that, the Catholic Church refused to do proper burial rites. Families were embarrassed and didn't claim some of the bodies. So it was a very sad time. And it's scary to think that there are folks out there that might repeat that history anywhere in our country and the world. So it's very eye-opening. I want to get the book.
Yeah. I think about like in his comments about looking at how we as a society, not just LGBTQ and marginalized groups, but like how society reacted to both that fire and Pulse. Like, you know, at least from what I could see about how America reacted towards Pulse, was an outpouring of love and support of our community. So it was tragic. And it's nice to see, at least, that we did not do what was done then.
Absolutely. Well, there's no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by sharing them and subscribing to Queer News Tonight.